Well, hello. My name's Josh Schwarzentrooper, and today I thought I would share sort of my story, I guess. You might call it my testimony of what it was like growing up Amish, sort of how I grew up, and my journey of leaving that, and some of the things I went through, and just just kind of go through my journey, I guess, and share some things. And it's not all good, not all bad either, but certainly not the greatest. I went through some crap, I guess, and I just want to make sure that to put out there, this doesn't mean all Amish kids that grew up, go through bad stuff. This is just my story. So if I go back to, well, first, let's see, I was born. That's the first thing. And as a little Amish kid, life was just that. I didn't know really that there was a different life out there until I was a little bit older. And then at about, I don't have many memories, very little memories of maybe less than 8 years old or so, or well, 7 years old when I started school. I remember that. And then kind of growing up a little bit, I was always kind of the skinny, smaller kid, sort of the run of the family maybe. I do have 5 sisters and 6 brothers, so my parents would have had 7. That makes 7 and 5, 12. They had one stillborn. One of my brothers was stillborn, my second youngest. So there was 13 kids, and they're all healthy and great. Big old Amish family, like a lot of Amish, and this is from a very strict old order Swords and True Amish. So. For myself, so sort of where I feel my journey really started, what I remember is about 10, 12 years old or so is when my 2 older brothers would start bullying me a lot and teasing me, and we call it teasing, but really it's bullying, and just making fun of me because I'm smaller, I do things different, or I'm not tough enough, and just all these different things. And then the whole sort of the community would sort of, at least the neighbors, which were my cousins, they would give me nicknames and stuff. And so that's sort of where the heart part starts, where, it's like, this ain't fun. And this went on for quite a few years. There was quite a while where I would say pretty much every day we would have lunch where the whole family comes around the table. We have lunch at 12 o'clock noon, and then after lunch my dad would take a nap, and then that would give my brothers the opportunity where we would go somewhere upstairs or outside, and then they would tease me and just culminate and stuff. I'd get mad and I'd chase them around with a broom and try to beat them up, but they were always bigger than me. I couldn't win, like me against 2 older brothers. So it was crazy, and some days it was really hard, tough, and then it sort of got to where that's what life was, and maybe it toughened me up a little bit in a way, but it also put me on a path of not believing in myself, and eventually self-hatred and suicidal and the whole all that stuff. But and my dad was taking a nap, so he didn't really know what's going on. But this happened in the open a lot too, though, in front of my mom, and it seemed like nobody really cared. Nobody did anything about it. I guess I'll jump ahead a little ways and just say years later, I thought I had forgiven my family. I actually went, after I left the Amish, went back and confronted my brothers about it and told them, like, look, here's what you did. And my parents, got them all in the room and told them about it. And they don't really, they apologize, but I don't think they really understand. They just don't understand abuse and what it does to a person. And, I know on one hand, some people say, oh, it makes you tough. And yeah, it does, but abuse is abuse. Like, it's just not acceptable. I think you just got to find that balance of, there's a way to toughen up somebody, but then also, if a kid, you can't just bully a kid and think that's going to make him tough, because it can break him too. But anyways, I just not too long ago, I had a moment where we were at an event, and there was a prayer tent there for people to get prayer, and I went and talked to a person there, and it was no doubt about it, the presence of God was there and just sort of unfolded some stuff. And I told part of the story, and the guy's like, well, whose responsibility was it to protect me? And I never thought of that, really. I'm like, well, it would have been my dad's responsibility. Because I never wanted to blame my dad. I never wanted to blame him. That's the thing. I just wanted to say it was okay and move on. And he kind of made a point that, no, it was his responsibility, and it's not okay for me to be mad at him, and we want to, work through it and forgive him, but it was his responsibility to protect me from that. And he didn't. So that's reality. So we, went through the process, got forgiveness through, and I don't know, it's a whole nother story, but either way, it set me free from stuff. So that was really cool. And this is years later. So just wanted to throw that in there. I got a drink to keep my throat. Got to keep my throat wet when I talk. But so if I go back to then, age 8, 12, 13, 11, so a lot of that going on. And then when I get to, for a few years, that goes on quite a bit. I remember one time we were loading hay. We would have to make this row of hay out in the field. There's a name for that, but whatever it's called. So just like English farmers would. But then we had to use horse and wagon, and there's a loader that goes behind the wagon that brings the hay up on the wagon. So I would have to drive the horses. My brothers are on the wagon to distribute the hay, but I have to keep the horses going real slow so that they could keep up. And I just remember one of them making some kind of remarks. They kept telling me that I have to slow down. I'm like, I'm holding the lines. I can't keep them slow. I can't do it. And one of them made some kind of remarks of, you're never going to be able to do this. I don't remember what he said, but I remember where we were at. Exactly the spot on the field today I could go and point out. We were right there going this direction. These were the horses. I remember all the details because there was a moment where the power of words again got to where it just told me I will never be good enough. No matter what I do, I will never be good enough. I will never amount to anything. That was instilled into my head that very second. And it took years to undo that. So I remember that part. And then going back to, Amish life, as I got older, I think 14, 15, I, graduate, come out of school at 14, we go 8th grade private school. And I was able to start working at a bucky shop where the guy built buggies, Amish buggies. And I hated farming. My dad had a farm and I hated farming. And so now I'm able to do something that I actually like. Working with wood, being in the shop, not being out in the snow in the winter time. And I enjoyed it. And we had a lot of fun with the guy I worked for. And, there's not everything was always good, but we had a lot of fun. And life got a little bit better. And I'm thinking, hey, life may be okay. Maybe I'll survive. Maybe I'm okay. And it sort of, healed, I guess, a little bit with my family because for many years I just didn't feel like I was part of the family. And again, I don't want to blame like my siblings or anything like their fault, but that's just who I was. I just didn't fit in. And even at 12 years old, I already thought, I'll probably leave. I'm probably going to leave and get out of here someday. But I was way too young. And so now I'm, 14, 15, 16 years old. I'm working at the shop. Life's better. I'm starting to enjoy it a little bit. And again, I do remember though, like we would have, guns. Amish always have guns around. And, we wouldn't go out shoot people with it. But we had like a rifle. So I remember a couple of times being back in the woods or go back, just maybe go rapid hunting or something. And just looking down the barrel of that gun, just like looking at it like, could I do it? Could I just pull the trigger and just end it all and boom, that's it. It all go away. And I couldn't do it. There was just something about it that, gosh, I still get chills talking about it. But I just couldn't do it. And I'm glad I didn't today. So I would, move on from that. Okay, now let me take a drink. I'll be fine. So, 16, 17, and I turned 17 years old. At 17 is when you can start dating. And that sort of opened up a new world, because I'm like, hey, obviously there was girls that I liked from, 8 years old already. There was a girl that I thought I was going to marry. But I couldn't date. Now I'm at 17. Hey, I could start dating. Maybe I'll find a girl and fall in love and settle down. And again, life will be okay. Everything will be fine. Well, turns out, as I turned 17, the girl that I thought I'd marry, I don't like her anymore. Like, I have no interest in her. It's so weird. And a few other girls that were on my backup list, like, nah, I'm just not really interested. So that was weird. But then there was a girl that I liked, and I never really got to know her. I didn't know she liked me, but certainly had my my eyes on her. But never had a date, never anything like that. I'm not going to talk about Amish dating now. But then she left the Amish, and man, that just set me back like crazy. And it wasn't like I was in love with her or like a heartbroken thing, anything like that. But it was just, I think it was more, I felt like she got set free. Like, she's out of there, She left. Like, whoa, she's out there living life, and I'm still here. And by this time, I'm at least 18, though. So I went through this serious depression of probably a week or two, where I wouldn't talk, we'd sit at the dinner table to eat, and I just sort of sit there and I had everything I could do to hold back tears. Like, I just wanted to burst. I was so emotional, it was unreal. I just wanted to burst out and cry. And so I'd sit there, just trying to hold it back, trying to not let the family see that I'm hurting, but I couldn't eat, I couldn't talk, it was horrible. My dad finally took me aside one day and just like, hey, something going on, you want to talk about it, which I very much respect. I'm glad he did. But unfortunately, my dad just never built the relationship with me to have that trust that, where we open up about everything and talk about it. That's something that I definitely want to do much, much better with my boys. My job as their parent, their father, is to, first of all, protect them from bullying. And I want to toughen them up. I want to make sure that they can handle a little bit of, our society it's the whole wokeness and some of the stuff, and it goes too far. But, you got to protect people from getting bullied. So, okay, I was in the middle of that story. So I told him, no, everything's fine. Because I couldn't get myself to, and I should have. I know I should have, and I wish I would have, but I couldn't get myself to say, first of all, I could have said, like, yeah, I feel hurt. I don't know if I fit in this family anymore. There's a lot of things I could have said, and he could have helped me. I don't know what he would have said. Maybe he would have said, well, move on and get over it or something. But I couldn't have told him that what I really felt was that I wish I would have left. Because there was other people who left the community. Another guy, a person, he was a few years older than me, but I consider him a good friend. He left the Amish too, sometime in those years. And I sort of almost had the same feeling when he left. It was like, there was this yawning and this jealousy, I guess. Like, man, they tapped into something. They ran away. They got a new life. I remember him. He left we lived in Ohio, and he went to Nebraska, and to be a cowboy and a westerner. And that's every Amish boy's dream, to be a cowboy, because he grew up around horses and farming, that stuff. And so every time that happened, I just go into this emotional trance or something. Man, I want to be them. I hate this. I hated my life. I hate this life. I just want to be out of here. But there's no way I can tell my dad that, because he would, I don't know what would have done, lock me up, or he would have, first of all, put the fear of hell into me like they always do. Like, oh no, you cannot leave the Army. You do not. You got to stay this way. And, that would not have worked. So there's no way, for me I know some of the Amish in different, less strict communities, they tell their parents they're going to leave the Amish, or they just kind of still live at home, but not where I come from. There's no Rumspringa either. There's nothing like that. You don't tell them that you're thinking about leaving, because that's going to get you in a lot of trouble. That's not going to happen. You're going to be quiet until the day you leave. So I go through that, and then so the next step is I go to New York from Ohio. We travel with Greyhound bus. Go to New York to work for one of my sisters that was married, and help my brother-in-law build a barn and stuff like that. But then at the age 19, now is the time where I have to join the church. So that means you become a member of the church, you get baptized, and in order to do that, you first go through a 6-week program where when you go to church, you go through this 6-week program where you go to church and then you meet with the preachers to kind of learn the rules and just sort of prepare you to become a member of the church, getting baptized. So I have to go back to Ohio, go back home to start that process to become a member of the church. And you have to do that in order to get married. You can't get married before you're baptized and a member. So I go back, but I remember traveling back with Greyhound. There's a few other Amish traveling with me because they wouldn't let me travel by myself. But I'm in the bus depot, probably Buffalo or Cleveland, these areas. And I'm just thinking, you know what, I just want to stay here. I mean, there's a TV. We didn't have TV, radio, none of that. And I'm trying to look at the TV, like TV's over there. I'm trying to look at it without them seeing me, because too much of me sitting there watching TV is going to get me in trouble. They tell my parents. So I'm thinking, I just want to stay here. And it wasn't really an option because they're with me, and part of their job is to make sure I get on the bus and get home safe. But I didn't want to. And so the reality is, I would have rather stayed there and basically be homeless in a bus depot than go home to my family. That's the reality of it. I just rather stay there. But I go home. I don't tell them. They didn't know when I'm coming home. And think about communication is writing letters. There's no phone calls. So you write a letter. From Ohio to New York, you're looking at a week, 2 weeks almost to write a letter up and back. So communication is just not really out there. So my parents knew I was coming home, but they didn't know when. But I didn't tell them, and I just decided I'm gonna get home and then I'll walk. It had to been at least 15 miles to where I get off the bus to my parents' house. And part of me was I just wanted to see what I can do. But there's buggies around. Like, somebody will give me a ride or something. I'll figure it out. I'll just get home somehow. And then a lady with a car ended up picking me up and just like, hey, do you need a ride? I'm like, yeah, okay. So she took me a ride home, and it was very nice. It'd be really cool to find out who that was. But I come back home, and I remember that day just going back in the, out in the pasture, walking around like we do a lot. And, we grew up on a farm. And I just thought, I don't want to be here. This is not where I want to be at. I don't want to be home. I did not. It's kind of sad, but it's a reality. Like, here I am back home, but I don't want to be here. I didn't want to be there. But I decided to give it a go, give it a whirl, and joined the church. And I still wasn't sure if I'm going to leave or not, because that's still, by that I mean leaving the Amish. That's still in the back of my mind, and I kind of changed my mind here and there. But sometimes I think, well, maybe I'll be fine, and I'll try to do it. Try to stay Amish. So I started the process, joined the church, and I grew my beard. We had to have like maybe that long of a beard. We could cut it or trim it, but you can't shave it. And you got to be very strict. Your hair got to be the right haircut. Everything's got to be just right during that process. Especially people are watching you closely to make sure that you're everything walking the line. And I fooled everybody, and they thought I was doing great until a week before baptism. Boom, I leave. And but I'll back up a little bit. In the spring, so in it was September when I left. So about in the springtime, is a guy that I knew left the Amish. A friend of mine left. Two of my cousins left. Actually, three. One was a girl and two guys, and then two other guys left. Like this one community, I think there was 6 or 7 people that left the Amish, and that was a big deal for that. So they're all leaving, and these are my friends. These are people I grew up with. These are my age, and they're about to become members of the church. So they're leaving, and so that kind of got me like thinking, okay, I need to get out of here. And so I made the phone call to my friend, said I want to leave. So okay, and he set up a place for me to live and a job, but I had to wait a couple weeks before somebody else that was living there had to move out so I could move in. So I had to wait a couple weeks, and everything was planned out. So I knew a couple weeks ahead of time, this was the day I was going to leave and everything. I didn't tell anybody, none of my family, nobody can know, because again, I wouldn't trust them that they wouldn't lock me up or whatever they have to do to keep me Amish. Then, I remember the day I left, I worked in the field with the horses and working the grounds in the field was a hoe or thistle, whatever you call it, farm equipment. And I made a note. The note just said I left, and I said I will stay away because some of the people that leave the Amish would come back and harass the family or the church and stuff like that. So I promised to just stay away and leave you guys alone. And I hit that note somewhere, and then the night, it was Saturday evening, after it got dark, took that note, put it out in the mailbox. I knew that my brothers, at least, because somebody else that had left had done that, I knew that they would know to look for a note in the mailbox. They can't find me. And I walked down the road, and sure enough, my buddy's right on time. Jumped in the car, and off I go. And it was, I don't know, it's a bundle of emotions, and it's like you're off to a whole new life. The first thing you do is you go get a haircut, and we just did it at my friend's house, and cut my hair short. First time I ever have short hair like this, because my hair would have to come down here to where they cover the ear. So they have to come down, cover my ear, and then go straight up, and then do a cross, and then down, and then straight around the back. That was the haircut. So I cut my hair, get a short haircut, put these English clothes on. I'm wearing a blue shirt. Put I remember the first shirt was a bright yellow shirt and blue jeans, and man, was that cool. This was on a Saturday night, and then Sunday we go out, we buy me a cell phone. My first cell phone was one of those little handheld, about yay tall, with a little antenna you pull out, buttons on it. You could text, call, and I think it had a calculator and a calendar on it. This was 2006, so it was September 11, 2006, so it's an easy number to remember. That's the day I left. So the first 2 weeks, I believe my parents came. Of course, they had to first figure out where I'm at, but I can't remember for sure, but I think that they came to the house one time and to talk to me, and of course try to talk me into coming back Amish. So the first couple weeks, I don't have a job because I still had to wait a little bit. And so the three ex-Amish guys I lived with, all living in somebody's basement. And so they'd go to work, and it's just me by myself. And all I do is watch John Wayne Western movies all day long. That's, again, Western, anything with horses and that kind of stuff. So I was lonely at times. I would go out and ride the bike sometimes, but couldn't drive, nothing like that. But it was it was a different experience. I was just watching TV for 2 weeks. And then after that, I finally get a job, and I ended up moving in with this couple that had left many years earlier, and kind of sort of started my new life. But then there's problems. First of all, you want to get your driver's license so you can get a car and drive. Well, I don't have a social security number. You need that to get a driver's license. Then you go and check on that, work on that. Well, I don't have a birth certificate. That's right. No, I didn't have a birth certificate. So now it's back to square one. Like, okay, there's no record that I exist. The only thing, I had 3 things. I had my school grade cards. I knew to take them with me when I left. That's 1 through 8th grade, and that's sort of your proof that you are who you say you are, because it has your name and the years, and it just sort of proves that you went to school here in America, Amish private school like that. And then I had a card for blood donation card. We would donate blood, Red Cross. So I had a card that had my name and my birth date on it. And I had taken a hunter safety course one time. And then that had my name and my date of birth on it. So those were the only things I had to sort of show who I was, you know, my name, my address, or date of birth. That's it. No birth certificate. And for some reason, some of the Amish do that sometimes. We're all, well, most of maybe the first 2 babies are born in the hospital and then the rest are born at home. And so sometimes they just don't get a birth certificate. And it was me and my older sister. For some reason, all the others had a birth certificate, but me and her, they didn't get us one. And obviously they knew they were going to have to get it someday because you have to have it to get marriage license. They always do that. So it's nothing uncommon for an Amish in that community, at least, for all of a sudden, hey, we need to get our kid our 20-year-old son or girl a birth certificate. But there was no way I was going to get my parents' help. They're not going to help me because their goal is to keep me from getting licensed. They want me to come back, so they're not going to help me, and it just sort of put me in this dead end where now what? So it was September 11 when I left. And then it's fast forward January 1st on New Year's Day. 3 months later? So I decided to go back. And I'm like, maybe I'll give it another try. Maybe I'll just wait to see, if I can get them to help me get my birth certificate. Even if I have to get married, like somehow I need the birth certificate to make it. So I go back on New Year's Day, January 1st. January 6th is when they celebrate Old Christmas, where they have it like a Sunday. And then that day, I'm at home. That evening, I see my buddy drive down the road with his car. And something rose up in me where it's like, no, I was going to do that. I was going to drive a car. There's no way. I'm going to do it. And I just said, I don't leave again. That was a tough decision again, because it's like, man, do I want to do this? And while I was at home that basically a week, my dad had made sure that I was able to go work for the buggy shop again, because he knew that's what I like to do. So I worked there, and it wasn't a, welcome home, we love you, anything like that, Obviously, I could tell they're glad to have me home. They were all glad I came back. My dad, my parents, and my brothers and everybody. But there was. I mean, that's the whole line. Like, my dad had never told me he loved me. I never once was told I love you. Never once. I thank you, appreciate. Good job, proud of you. And nothing. They don't do that stuff. That'll make you prideful. You're going to grow up and be prideful if you get affirmation, that stuff. There's no hugging, just nothing, no affection, nothing like that. And so, again, that's it. There's no like, hey, we're so glad you're back, there's nothing. You're just like, oh, cool, you're back, awesome. That's it. And then my dad goes to town one day and he comes home and he gives me a little pack of gum. Like a little pack of 5 pieces. Not the big pack, with 15. The 5-piece gum. And I'm like, oh. And it was like a gift. Like, here's a gift. And I kind of took it as, okay, you're giving me a gift because I came back Amish. I'm 19 years old and it's a 5-pack of gum. And I don't want to just trash my dad, but it's like, come on, man. Like, kill a fat calf or something, Like, that's it? A 5-pack of gum? You can't do better than that to show appreciation? So, I don't know. I'm just being honest. That's how I feel about it. So, it didn't last long. So, that evening on January 6th, I go get my note upstairs in the house, lay it out so they can find it, walk down past my parents in the living room, out the back door, and down the road. And I can tell you remember the feeling of just walking down the road. And I remember thinking, man, if my brothers, I think more than my brothers, if they would just come after me, my older brothers, if my 2 older brothers, if they would, I had this fantasy almost, like, man, if I just see them come up behind me with a horse and buggy, and they come up and they say, hey man, we love you, you're our brother, we want you to come back home. Like, sincerely, like, we want you to come home, be part of our family. man, I would have been so proud and so happy. I would have gotten on that buggy so fast, you wouldn't believe it. And I would have gone back home as happy as can be. But it didn't happen. And, you know, obviously they didn't know. I don't know when they found out later that evening that I left, but they didn't know where I was at. And I'm not blaming them, but I'm just like, if they could just understand what I was missing and what that's kind of affirmation, that kind of, hey, be part of our family, what that would have meant. They have no idea how much that would have meant. Because I was lost. I was desperate. I was depressed. I was lonely. I was angry. I was just miserable. It's like, what do you do? Like, I needed help, guidance, and where do you get it? You know, they could have given that. But again, they're not taught that stuff. And on the other hand, again, they didn't know where I was going. So I'm not blaming them, not putting the blame on them. I'm just saying that's what I felt. And I would bet you, I really think if that would have happened, you wouldn't be watching this video, because I'd be some long-haired Amish man with 10 kids and a wife probably not as good looking as mine. And I'm glad they didn't. Let's just say it. I'm glad they didn't, and I don't think that was my destiny anyway. So hey, that's all good. Glad they didn't show up. But that was just something that I went through. I wish they would have. So I walked about 2 miles. I didn't have a phone. I had no way of contacting my friend. So I walked about 2 miles where I was going to go to. There's a guy, an English guy that I knew, and so I thought I'd go to his house and ask him to use his phone to call my buddy. Well, I get to his house. He's not home. And where I was living at with my friends was, it was at least 6, something maybe between 5 and 8 miles. I don't know, maybe 6, 7 miles. And I ended up walking all the way to the house where I was staying at. And I was able to, essentially break into the house. I go in, my dresser that I had there, found my old phone, called my buddy, and he's like, "What? You're calling me? Was the phone that you left at the house when you went out back on me?" You're just all confused. I'm like, "Yep, I'm out again." So that was the second time that I essentially ran away from home. Left, 19 years old still at that point. So then I got a job doing construction with another guy who was also ex-Amish. And I sort of started my life, and the birth certificate. So I worked on that for a little bit, tried to, get some help from an ex-Amish person that sort of helps people with that, and couldn't really get anywhere. And essentially, basically what happened is I started going to church with this guy, got to know the pastor, he invited me to church, and then he found out about it, and he's like, there's an attorney that goes to church there, and he could help me with that. So I meet with the attorney and told him the situation and gave him the paperwork and that I had, those 3 things, and didn't really know, what to do or what's going on. And before I know it, I get a letter from Columbus, state of Columbus, Ohio, saying that my birth certificate is there to be picked up. I'm like, whoa. I opened that letter, I'm like, I am somebody. Holy cow. And I'm just like, wow. And the thing was at the time is, I think I paid the guy like $65. And I know he did it as just helping me out, but I had no idea what attorney. I didn't know what attorney was, a lawyer, what they call. I didn't know any. I had no idea what he did. I had no idea what he went through. Like, he just did it. And so I'm forever grateful for that. So I was able to take that, go and get my birth certificate, my social security number, and then my driver's license, and buy a car, and I'm living a life. But I'm still a very emotional, lost. By lost, I mean I don't know who I am, and I'm angry, and frustrated, and depressed, and still suicidal. Still sometimes I just kill myself and be done with it. And before I knew it, in the next couple of years or so, I start watching porn. And I know I just kind of blew that out on you. And like, okay. So I get addicted to that, and that's when I realized all of a sudden, like almost 5 years later, all of a sudden I realized, wait a minute, this is an addiction. Like, I can't go a day without watching it. So this is an addiction. And I remember that moment of like, wait a minute, I'm an addicted person? I'm one of those people? Like, really? I never thought I was that. And I knew it was bad. I know some people say it's okay or whatever, but any addiction that you do every day, like I have to watch it every day, that's an addiction. It controls your life. It caused me to make decisions that I shouldn't. Like, it's just not good. You know, whether it's drug, alcohol, porn, you know, anything addiction is bad. And so now I'm like, oh, now I got an addiction, so now I got to work on that. So I got a book called it was called How to Kill a Lion. And in there I sort of learned what addiction usually is I was dealing with emotional pain from my past, and then I have to do this addiction to cope with that pain. So now I'm dealing with that, so I go get counseling, get free from that. This is before I have a relationship, never had a girlfriend. A couple years after, well, it's at least 6 years now after I left, because I'm 5 years in. And I go get counseling, and hallelujah, I get free from that. No more addiction. Now, can't say I never looked at it since, but I was no longer addicted. And, I'm trying to think what I want from there on. I mean, it's still, as far as like suicidal, that sort of, this counseling really helped me. You know, the lady that counseled me did a really, really good job. And she really helped me to sort of reprogram my brain, the way I think, the way I see myself. And there really are a lot of people I should thank would be her and people that I work with, bosses, companies that I work for, that for the first time they believed in me. I remember the guy that was my supervisor, good old Lee Coolwine. He was my supervisor at a shop that I had as a driver. I remember the day where again, this is one of those moments, going back to what my brother said to me. The day that he patted me on the back and said, good job. And I was like, wow, that felt great. No man, and no woman either, but no man had ever, patted me on the back and said, good job. I had never felt that in my life. And I'm 21 years old at this point. And so, there's people that come along in my life and slowly started to get myself to believe in. And then I go to, let's see, we're about 2008, 9, getting into that stuff. And then fast forward, I meet my wife, Sarah, the beautiful Sarah, aka the boss. I meet her in 2014, I believe. And we start dating and got married. And it's been, I think, 7 years now. We got 2 boys. And so, kind of just fast forward through that. But I just want to make clear, as far as suicidal, no. I would never think about killing myself. It's like, dude, I have a good life. Life is not perfect. It was never meant to be perfect. It's hard sometimes. Sometimes it's harder if you make it harder based on the decisions that you make. But I am happy. I have a family. Life is awesome. Life is great. And I learned how to sort of control my emotions, where not only I would control because I was a roller coaster. I would go way up, like, man, life is good. It's great. It's awesome. And then next week, I want to kill myself. So I had to learn to sort of balance that out. Like, okay, life is good, but that doesn't mean it's always going to be perfect. So let's kind of balance it out. And I would listen to a lot of podcasts. One guy I'm going to mention that has changed my life is Patrick Bet-David. He has a YouTube channel called Valuetainment. Anybody Valuetainers on here, I'd love to see your comments. He has a podcast called PBD Podcast. He has changed my life in just the last 5 years of just listening to him and just very inspiring stuff. A book that I listened to, the audiobook, a few times is called How to Win Friends and Influence People. That has changed my life. And man, it just, like, I know I have a lot growing. There's a lot yet to grow and to learn, but the way I see things, the way I see life, the way I make decisions, the way I see myself, the confidence that I got, I had to learn to love myself and to like myself and to be okay with myself and to know that, you know what, you mess up and you get up, you move on and that stuff. So that's in a nutshell my life. And from here on out, my goal is to inspire others, and one of the things I do is share some videos on social media to try to reach other young ex-Amish people, to try to encourage them that, look, you know, whatever you're going through, you can be a different person. And I'm committed to continue to grow, to learn, to never think I know everything, and, you know, to stay humble and realize you don't know everything, then you learn, and try to inspire. And the one quote that I have from Abraham Lincoln, it says, "I want to leave this world a little better place having lived in it." So that's sort of my quote of what I want to try to be, to inspire people, to love people, to get people to realize who they are, and build motivation and build confidence and all that stuff. So that pretty much sums it up. But I just thought it'd be interesting to share that, and hopefully it can inspire somebody. I don't want, it's not a pity party. It's not, oh, I'm sorry you went through that. The reality is, would I want to go through it again? No. But it made me who I am. And I just, yeah, I don't know. It's like, yeah, like I said, I wouldn't want to go through it again. I don't even know how to say it, but yet I don't regret it, because it made me who I am. You know, I'm very passionate towards any form of abuse. You know, I'm working with and hoping to get a little bit more involved with an organization that is helping Amish abuse in the Amish, sexual abuse, all that kind of stuff. So any form of abuse, whether it's, you know, women or any person or animals, or whenever there's one predator, a person or an animal or whatever that's stronger than the other and abusing the other, I got a problem with that. So it's made me compassionate, and I had to learn to let my past make me better, not bitter. So that sort of sums it up. And I guess that being said, thank you for watching. And if you're new to this channel or this video, if you like this kind of stuff, you're interested in learning more about the Amish and their life, well, that's what we're gonna be doing between me and my wife. So feel free to, you know, at least like this video. If you don't mind, just hit that thumbs up. That'll help the video get out there. If you want to join the journey, feel free to subscribe to the channel if you want to. I never like to, you know, try to say people have to do that, but, you know, you can feel free to do that and come along the journey. We're going to dive into the Amish more and sort of show what their life is like, and expose some of the bad and expose some of the good. And with that being said, have a good day.